Hello my friends, and welcome to a romance recommendations video from somebody that doesn't really read romance books. So these are books that have romance as a subplot because that's how I roll. Two things before we get started. First of all, I chopped my hair today. I don't know, somebody left me alone in the bathroom with scissors and this is what happened. Second thing, I am hopefully on the tail end of a head cold, but you can probably hear it and it just is what it is. I didn't want to not film just because I'm not feeling 100%. So if I sound a little rough, if my nose looks a little dry, it is, but we're gonna go with it. So in honor of Valentine's Day, I thought I would share my first ever romance recommendations video after over 6 years on BookTube. I've never done anything like this. I did almost 2 years ago, I did a vlog trying to read romance books, and yeah, I'll leave that linked. You can see how that went. But for the most part, I don't like straight up romance books for a couple of reasons. One, I just need more plot to my books. Growing up, I was really into mystery and suspense, so I was okay with romance being part of it, but not the reason for the book. And then the other thing is, I often find romance stuff written really cringy. It just kind of makes me kind of embarrassed and kind of feel weird. I don't know. I just feel like I have enough romance in my life. I'm very happily married. I don't like to read it a ton, but I do like it as part of another book. So, not the main thing, but part of it. I have a few different genres represented here. We have some contemporary-ish. Actually, do we really have? Yeah, we do have some. We've got some historical. We have one classic, and then we've got some fantasy. So depending on the genre you like, hopefully you'll find something here. These are all top-notch books in my opinion, and I specifically tried to find ones where it wasn't just the book that I liked, but I also liked the romance that was in the book. So hopefully you'll find some great recommendations from here. Whether you do like romance more than me, or if you are like me and only like it as, something else in the book, hopefully you'll love these. Okay, we're gonna start with suspense because that is my roots for reading mystery suspense. I really loved, this is a trilogy, but it starts with If I Run by Terry Blackstock. I'm gonna make this a little darker so maybe you can see the cover. Everything will be linked below as well. It's a very white and bright cover as it is. In this book, we have a girl named Casey. She, at the beginning of the book, walks in on this crime scene of her best friend that's been murdered, and she gets her DNA all over it. So throughout the trilogy, she is on the run, trying to stay hidden from the law and figure out who killed her best friend while she is being framed for his murder. Throughout the books, there is, I don't know, is he a detective? He's a war-weary veteran hired to find her. And throughout the book, what I really like is he tries to find information about Casey. He talks to people and he obviously watches her, he tracks her and stuff. And the more he gets to know about her and see her actions, the more he's falling in love with her because of how she treats people. And he realizes there's no way she acts this way and also murdered her friend. It's kind of he falls for her from a distance. And I really enjoyed that. Plus, these books are such fast reads. You need to have, if you're going to start this one, have the rest of the series queued up because you're going to want to read them one after another for sure. These are my absolute favorite Terry Blackstock books, other than maybe her Christmas book. I didn't include any Christmas books in here because that is kind of the one exception where I'm kind of okay with more of a romance and knowing how the ending is. I like surprise endings, that doesn't happen in romance, but I'm more okay with that in Christmas books. So this next one is actually marketed as romance because they're popular, but it's really not a romance. I got this in a mystery box. I never would have picked it up otherwise. The cover isn't very interesting. The fact that it's apparently a romance would not have interested me. But it's called You Don't Know Me by Susan May Warren. And this is in her Deep Haven series. I don't think I've ever read any other Susan May Warren, even though I read and loved this one years ago. But this one is so cool, especially if you read the author's note at the end, which I'll kind of tell you about. But our main character in here is the model wife and mother, it says. She's just perfect, and her husband is in this mayoral race. And it turns out, though, that she's actually in witness protection and has been for years. Her husband knows nothing about it. And the reason that she's in witness protection, the guy who wants her dead is coming back. And this is a romance in the fact that I feel like this book is really about our main character learning to trust her husband and like fall in love with him again. What I really appreciate about this book is the author's note at the end. The whole idea of this came to Susan May Warren on an airplane when she sat next to a woman who was going to go say goodbye to her daughter because her daughter was going into witness protection. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? That'd be so hard. Yeah, so this is like an actual romance between a married couple, which is very rare, but with some like mystery and suspense elements in it. Have you guys read more of the Deep Haven series? Is there a book in the series you think I'd enjoy, or another Susan May Warren that has similar-ish vibes? I would love to know. Okay, we're gonna go into contemporary next. If you like books and bookstores, how about a romance centered around a bookstore? We've got Twice Sold Tales by Shatona Havig. This is the first book in the Bookstrings series. And we have this woman named Harper who inherits a bookstore, which is not doing so well. She's not really good with people, so she's inherited it from her great aunt. And she's a little bit snarky, doesn't have the best customer service. And as she inherits this bookstore, she also meets this man named Noah, who has very recently realized that he is the father of a 7-year-old or something like that. And I don't know, they just have a cute relationship. I love the dynamics of having a kid in there as well and how that changes things. And we also meet a character named Milton who helps the bookstore get out of debt, and then he does that throughout the series. He's kind of like the constant throughout the series. And then this one also has book recommendations. So the chapters that are, I think, from Milton's point of view, if I remember correctly, all start with a book recommendation, of which I have not read all of them. I keep meaning to. But yeah, if you want your TBR to explode even more, definitely check that one out. Another one that is actually marketed as a romance, and I guess is a romance, but has so much more to it, is called All That Really Matters. Both books in this duology, the titles are so hard for me to remember. It's by Nicole Deese, and in the first book, we follow a girl named, starts with an M. I can't remember her name, but she is an influencer, a beauty influencer, and has kind of gotten very full of herself. She decides to take on a volunteer project so that, her image kind of gets a bit of a boost. She wants to use that for, I think, a TV show. She wanted to apply for a TV show, but she needed to look better. And she ends up volunteering for this home that has kids that have aged out of foster care, which, if you know me, foster care is very near and dear to my heart. So obviously that pulled on my heartstrings. So she starts volunteering for all the wrong reasons, meets the guy that's running the program, and don't you know it, he's like this super amazing guy that she falls in love with. And I really appreciate all the elements of the foster care, like aging out of foster care, the trauma that's involved in all of that comes with the story. And in the second book, we follow her twin brother, and that also has I feel like some good elements to it as well, but I'm going to recommend the first book in the series. Then in historical fiction, I only pulled out one in this, and I'm going to go with a Susie Finkbeiner. I'm going to go with Stories That Bind Us. This is set in the 60s. The only thing about this book is the main character sounded quite old, but I think it's just because the clothing that she wears was, you know, fitting for the time, but now people that wear that kind of stuff would be much older. Oh yeah, 1960s, small town Michigan. She's 40, the main character, which I'm turning 40 this year, but she just sounds like, because she's wearing her nylon stockings and stuff like that. She ends up taking care of her 5-year-old nephew because her sister cannot take care of him. And through this story, she learns to grieve her husband's death, but then also slowly falls in love with someone else. And it's really good to see that, like, positive healing. Like, it takes her a while. It's not like, oh, my husband died, now I'm in love with this other guy. There's a lot of healing, and the guy that she falls in love with, I feel like, is just very loyal and steadfast and there for her, and I really appreciate that. Next, we have A Marriage of Convenience. This is my one classic, and my daughter's actually reading it right now and having a blast. It is The Blue Castle by L.M. Montgomery. So everyone that I've ever heard of that has read this book has loved it, but not enough people have read it. In this one, we have a girl, she's 29. Her name is Valency. She's a spinster, and her family makes fun of her because she's so old and not married, and she's never gonna catch a guy. Well, then right at the beginning, she gets told she has a heart condition and she has 1 year to live. And suddenly she gets a little bit of backbone and does things that her family does not approve of. Not super wild things. One of the things that she does is she goes and takes care of this girl that's her age that is dying, who lives with her drunk father, but that needs someone to take care of her. But it's so scandalous that she would be living in this house. So she does that. Then she decides to get married to stay away from her family. So there's a marriage of convenience. She tells the guy, like, I don't have long to live, so if you marry me, I can enjoy my last few months, and, you know, then you'll be free of me. And I love seeing them slowly fall in love. I love marriage of convenience, when people fall for each other slowly or when they try to make it work. Yeah, so enjoyed The Blue Castle. Okay, let's stick with marriage of convenience. We're moving into fantasy now. Yes, all mine are fantasy. The Starlit Prince. In this one, we have a young woman whose father's prize horse gets stolen the night before a big race, and I think from what I remember, you know, he's got a lot riding on this race. So she agrees to marry this fae and go live with him in order to guarantee that her father will win the race and not be ruined. I loved her love for her father and her family, that she was willing to do that, willing to sacrifice her potential joy and happiness to make sure that her father is provided for. And then what I really like is that she is determined to make this marriage of convenience work. She's like, okay, I decided to marry this guy, now I'm going to try to get to know him. But he's got his own secrets. It's a little bit of a Beauty and the Beast storytelling, because at certain times he turns into a different creature and he tries to hide that from her. But meanwhile, she's very persistent and wants to get to know him. And I really enjoy that positivity and her just, you know, determination to make it work. One that I read a long time ago and really enjoyed is Mark of the Raven by Morgan L. Bussey. This is the first book in the Ravenwood saga, and we have Lady Selene, who is from this family of dreamwalkers, but her family has been using that ability to assassinate people instead of using the ability for the good that it was intended for. So her family sets her up with this quest to kill this guy from a different house. I think there's at the beginning there shows the character list with the different houses that people are from. So the House Ravenwood are the House of Dreamers, and then House Maris is House of Waters, and there's Grand Lord Damien. She is set to assassinate in his sleep, but she can't do it. She can't follow through, and she slowly ends up falling in love with him, and they end up getting married kind of as a marriage of convenience, but it's very much a part of the story and there's a bigger reason for it, but I don't want to spoil that definitely enjoyed that book. That was like one of my first fantasy that I read and enjoyed. Another one, if you want an enemies to lovers kind of story, we have The Heir and the Spare by Kate Stradling. So our main character here is the second-born princess. She is the younger sister to a terrible princess. Her older sister pretty much tortured her as a child, so to keep her safe, her parents sent her out of country to go to school, and they disguised her as a peasant. I don't remember the reasoning for that, but the school that she went to, you were very much treated according to your status. So because she was a peasant, she was not treated well, even though she was technically, like, would have been above everybody else had she let them know who she really was. And her lead tormentor, the guy that was top dog, is now set to marry her sister. And she's like, great, these two evil people marrying each other, that couldn't turn out better. But then he comes out and is kind of getting to know her sister before their marriage, and she realizes, wait, he's not as terrible as I thought he was. Should he actually marry my sister? Can I let this happen? It's pretty twisty. I really enjoyed it. Would love to reread it. Definitely recommend. And then my last one I'm going to recommend is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is a Regency fairy tale that has to do with poorhouses. We have this girl who young woman, lost half her soul to a fae years before. He tried to take her into the fae world, but her cousin saved her. But he managed to like suck out half her soul. So what that means is that she just doesn't feel things as strongly, emotions. She doesn't always pick up on things. If she's hurt, she doesn't always notice, that kind of thing. And at the beginning of the book, her cousin takes her to London for the season because her cousin wants this Lord Sorcerer to heal her so she can be whole again. And during this time, our main character ends up helping this doctor in these poorhouses because she can't like smell the stench as much, or like the pain doesn't bother her as much. She's a great nurse, and through her helping the doctor with the poorhouses, they end up falling in love. And yeah, I felt like it was a great fantasy with fae that had romance, but also had that like helping the poor elements. I really enjoyed that one. So I think that was 10 books that I really enjoy the romance for. As someone that is not overly romantic myself and does not really enjoy reading romance stories. So hopefully you guys can enjoy these. If you have similar books where romance is not the point of the story, but there is a really good romance, please leave them in the comments because I love that kind of thing. So thanks for joining me today. Hopefully my voice didn't annoy you too much. Thankfully I can edit out any of the sniffling that I did, hopefully. I hope you guys have a great week, a great Valentine's, and hopefully you guys all stay healthy. Thanks for joining me today.